Everyone thought it was just another fancy party on a big boat. Rich people in fancy clothes, drinking sparkling drinks and laughing under the sun. But they had no idea what was really going to happen. Keanu Reeves and Denzel Washington were there too, but not for the party. They came to stop something really bad, something big. And they were going to do it without even using a single weapon. The sun was shining bright on the water. The sea looked like shiny blue paint, and the big yachts looked like toys made of diamonds. These boats were not normal boats. They were super expensive and had everything rich people could want. Two men walked up to the fancy entrance where guards stood. These two men didn't look rich. One was Keanu Reeves. He wore an old shirt, his sleeves rolled up. His boots were dusty like he had been walking a lot. He carried a big bag over his shoulder. Beside him was Denzel Washington. He had a small black case on his back. He wore simple pants and shoes. No fancy watches. No shiny things. One guard looked at them and said, "This is a private area. What are your names?" Keanu stepped closer and said, "We're here to fix the lights. We work for the boat company. There's a problem on the big boat called Lampire." The guard looked confused. He checked his tablet. No names. No badges. They weren't on the list. Just then, a really fancy car drove up. A Rolls-Royce. Out came women in shiny dresses and men in bright white suits. They smelled like flowers and perfume. Then came Lucien Marceau. He looked like a king. His white coat sparkled in the sun. His shirt had his name stitched in silver. His sunglasses shone like mirrors. He looked at Keanu and Denzel like they were ants. "What's the problem?" Lucien asked softly, but sharply. "Two workers not on the list," said the guard. "Names?" Lucien asked. "Reeves and Washington," the guard replied. Lucien's mouth moved into a tiny smile. It was not a nice smile. He stepped close to Keanu and looked at him like he was an old book. "You two walk like you're important," he said quietly, "but you look poor. This isn't a stage for old ghosts." Keanu didn't blink. "We're just here to fix lights, sir," he said calmly. Lucien leaned in even closer and whispered, "Then stay in the shadows." He turned and walked away. The guard sighed and said, "You're lucky. Usually, we call the police." Denzel looked at Keanu and said, "We're in." They walked behind the workers who were carrying boxes into the back of the big boat. Inside the boat, everything sparkled. The stairs were shiny. The walls had gold. Lights hung from the ceilings like frozen lightning. Cameras moved quietly, watching everything. Every hallway looked rich. Every room had a secret. But Keanu and Denzel weren't there to drink fancy drinks. Not yet. On the top deck, someone played a violin. The boat slowly left the harbor and moved into the sea. Keanu touched a little gadget on his belt. It buzzed. It was working. Denzel opened his black case and whispered, "System is on. We can see everything they're doing." Keanu nodded. "Let the secret auction begin." Up above, Lucien lifted his glass of champagne. He smiled as if nothing was wrong. But something was coming. Something big. The boat moved smoothly across the sea. It looked like a floating castle. It had 4 big decks, glass windows, gold walls, and even a place for helicopters. Guests stood near the rails, holding their drinks carefully. The sun went down behind the cliffs. Golden lights turned on all over the boat. A group of musicians played soft music under a glass roof. Below them, the real show was about to begin. Keanu stood near a hallway on the second deck. He wore a small card that said, "Guest Lighting Crew." He watched quietly as rich people walked by. Some were models. Some were rich business people. One man had shiny rings on every finger. Down below, Denzel moved carefully through secret hallways and stairs. He knew where everything was. He had studied the boat's plans. He reached a small dark room. He opened his case and took out special tools, tiny computers, wires, and a satellite mirror. He plugged one in. A green light blinked. It was working. Lucien stepped onto the main deck. He now wore a blue suit with ivory buttons. He raised his hand and the music stopped. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said with a French accent, "tonight we leave behind the problems of the world. No politics. No protests. No poor people. Just beauty, power, and history." He pointed to a red cloth on a platform. Helpers took the cloth off. Under it was a sculpture, a bronze statue taken from Africa. "This," Lucien said, "was saved from a forgotten kingdom. And tonight, it finds a new home." People clapped. Paddles went up. The first bid was 2 million. Behind a secret mirror, a room full of computers lit up. Cameras followed faces. Payments were made in secret coins and fake names. A digital world of money and lies was working underneath the party. Keanu watched everything on his screen. He tapped his watch. A signal went to Denzel. Denzel checked his computer. "We see their blockchain. We're inside." "Good," Keanu said, pretending to fix a light. "Let's see what they're really selling." More items came up. Old books, lost paintings, even land papers for mines in stolen places. Then the fifth item came. Denzel stopped moving. "Lot 5, the voice said. "Biolab unit. Girl. Age 12. Farming skills." Denzel's hands froze. He clenched his teeth. "Keanu," he whispered. "They're selling children now." Upstairs, Lucien smiled. "We do not sell people," he said sweetly. "We give responsibility." People clapped again. Keanu stepped back and whispered into his shirt, "We go loud on Lot 7. Let them think they're still the bosses." The boat looked peaceful from far away, but deep down, a storm was coming. Denzel moved through the cold hallways. The walls buzzed. He passed some workers carrying drinks. No one noticed him. His badge said he worked with lights. He entered another room, opened a secret panel. Inside were blinking lights and fiber cables. It was the brain of the whole boat. He didn't stop to admire it. He opened it and added a device. The lights turned green. "Mirror port is stable," he whispered. "Tracing the money now." Upstairs, the rich people smiled and raised their glasses. But their secrets were no longer hidden. Keanu and Denzel were watching it all. And they were just getting started. Keanu walked through a big group of people. He moved so smoothly, like smoke in the wind. Nobody looked at him because he looked normal. He wore a plain gray shirt that was neat but not fancy. His hair was tied back in a loose ponytail. On his belt, he had a small ID badge, like the kind workers wear. He was on the top deck of a giant ship. From the speakers around him, a man's voice echoed. It was Lucien Marceau. He said, "Tonight, we are not bad people. We are savers of what the world has forgotten. We keep it safe, even if most people don't understand." People clapped politely. Their smiles looked fake, like statues. Down below, Denzel looked at a live video feed on his screen. It was being sent to their secret computer. The computer showed money being sent through crypto, digital coins you can't see. The names were hidden, but the places the money came from were not. One place was known for washing bad money through art. Another was a fake company that pretended to help people but had been banned for being mean. Then, something strange popped up. A secret door in the computer system opened. Denzel clicked on it. He saw a list. It said, "Bio-classified bidders panel." That meant people were secretly buying more than just art or land. The list was active. It said Lot Q had things like machines, old papers, and something scary. Contracts for people. Denzel froze. He whispered to Keanu through the tiny mic in his collar, "This isn't just art and land, they're selling people." On the screen, he saw Lot 12A, Bio-Labor Unit, Female, 12, for farming use. Current bid, $520,000. That made no sense. Up on the deck, Keanu's face grew serious. His jaw got tight. He turned just a bit and saw Lucien still talking about fancy stuff near a statue that had been stolen from South Sudan. "Now," Keanu said quietly. Denzel tried to stop the computer by using a secret code, but it was too late. A red light blinked. It said, "Unauthorized access detected." Behind him, Vince hissed a warning. Denzel turned. Two security guards in black suits walked toward him. They had no expression on their faces. "Mr. Washington," one said. He held a taser, a zapper. Denzel didn't fight. He didn't need to. He raised his hands and said, "The system was acting weird. I just logged in to fix the fiber port." They didn't believe him. "You'll have to come with us," one guard said. Denzel nodded calmly and walked with them. As they passed a metal wall, he tapped his ring 3 times on the side. Click, click, click. It was a secret signal. Upstairs, Keanu heard the signal through the mic in his cuff. He moved a spotlight with one hand and tapped his thumb on the lens. That sent another signal, "Stay in play." Below deck, the guards took Denzel to a fake wine cellar. The walls were covered in old wine bottles. But the center had nothing but a metal floor, 2 chairs, and a table. One light buzzed above. Denzel sat in the chair. His hands weren't tied. He looked calm but ready. Lucien walked in and poured himself a glass of fancy wine from 1983. He didn't give any to Denzel. "You know," Lucien said, swirling his wine, "many powerful people can't even get on this ship. But somehow a light guy from our sales got through 4 levels of secret doors." He smiled like someone who was used to being treated like a king. Denzel didn't say a word. Lucien leaned in closer. His voice was smooth but sharp like static. "Who are you?" Still no answer. He put his wine down and pulled out a black tablet. He looked at it and swiped. His face changed. "No LinkedIn, no address, no taxes. That usually means someone works for the government. But I haven't seen your face at Interpol parties." Denzel stayed quiet. Lucien got a little angry and stood up. "Let me tell you something," he said. "This place you see, with gold and pretty things, it's protected by lawyers, business people, and secret groups. You won't stop anything. You are nothing." Denzel tilted his head and said softly, "I thought I was the lighting guy." Lucien gave a short, cold laugh. "Your friend upstairs, Mr. Reeves, he's being watched. One wrong move, and he'll be fish food near Corsica." Denzel didn't react. He just tapped his fingers under the table. He sent another signal. In a hidden control room under the captain's room, Keanu was watching. The camera in Denzel's collar was dark, but he could still hear the audio. He listened closely. He heard Lucien say, "You'll disappear and no one will care." Keanu's eyes narrowed. He stood up and walked slowly toward the VIP gallery. People around him laughed and drank fancy drinks. Some wore shiny masks. They lifted paddles to bid on things. One item sold for €8 million before anyone even read what it was. Keanu passed a mirror. He fixed his cuff and whispered, "Play the video after item 7. In the wine cellar, Lucien's tablet buzzed. He looked at it. A red warning popped up, "System mirroring detected. Broadcast starting." His smile vanished. "You smug little man," he said. Denzel smiled. "Smile for the world, Lucien. It's almost showtime." Above them, the auction was getting exciting. A red curtain pulled back. It showed a golden art piece from the 7th century, stolen from a Syrian monastery. The crowd gasped. Lucien stood in the center again, calm now. His hair was perfect. His voice was smooth. "They say war destroys beauty. We say beauty should last forever." People clapped. Lights danced. The dark sea around the ship looked like a black mirror. But inside the captain's room, a different screen lit up. Keanu stood in a room made of mirrors. He placed his hand on a secret screen behind an old painting. His reflection looked like a puzzle. He pressed execute. At first, nothing happened. Then, the big screen behind the auction flickered. A countdown appeared, unveiling in 30 seconds. "This is being recorded and shared worldwide." Everyone gasped. Someone dropped a glass. Lucien yelled, "Turn it off." But nothing worked. The system was locked. Denzel smiled in his seat. "They're watching," he whispered. The countdown hit 0. Then the truth came out. A little girl's face appeared on the big screen. She looked about 12. She looked sad and tired. The words under her said, "Lot 12A, Bio-Labor Unit, for farming." People in the crowd gasped. Then another image, Lot 14B, people made to dig holes in East Africa. Then Lot 15C, a man forced to give his body parts, from Gaza. A man in the crowd yelled. A woman took off her mask and cried. Then cameras around the ship turned on. They scanned every guest's face. On screens, their real names popped up. One was a rich man from Russia in a child trafficking ring. Another was a British man who sold illegal weapons. A third used to work for the UN but leaked secrets. The party turned silent. No more music. Only alarms. Lucien looked at the screen, now bright blue. He was no longer the star. The spotlight burned him. "You think this will stop me?" he growled. "You only showed the top. The sea is still deep." Keanu's voice came through every speaker on the ship. "Good," he said. "Let it run deep. But now, everyone will see what's under the surface." Lucien Marceau stood still under the big glowing screen. That screen used to show his power, but now it was showing all his secrets. The party guests were scared. Some were crying, others were yelling. But no one could leave. A quiet flying robot was floating above the big boat, showing everything live to the world. The boat, called Lumpur, was out in the ocean. But it wasn't just a fancy party boat anymore. It had become a place where the truth was being told. Like a courtroom in the sea. Lucien ran to the control room. "Turn everything off," he shouted. "Shut down all the power. Make it go black." But the boat's captain didn't move. He looked very scared. His hand was shaking. Lucien hit the control panel hard. "Do it," he yelled. The captain slowly turned a screen toward Lucien. His voice was shaking too. "Sir, you don't own the boat anymore." Lucien looked at the screen. He couldn't believe what he saw. The boat's computer showed that the owner was now Blue Horizon Global Foundation. The name Reeves, Keanu C. was there too. It was bought 3 months ago. It wasn't just a party yacht anymore. It was now a boat used to study human rights and war crimes. Lucien stepped back, surprised. "That's not true," he whispered. A voice came from behind him. "Yes, it is," said Keanu Reeves. He wasn't angry. He just stood there calmly. "You sold it, Lucien," Keanu said. "You didn't know who bought it. But I did. You sold it to cover some money problems you had in Singapore." Lucien's face grew red. "You tricked me," he said. Keanu shrugged. You sold people. I sold your empire. Seems fair. Just then, Denzel walked in. He wasn't tied up anymore. Two people in black uniforms with UN signs on their arms stood beside him. We sent your signals to every big court, Denzel said. Interpol. The ICC. Even the IRS wants to talk to you. Lucien looked around, like a trapped animal. He was breathing fast. You all think this matters? He growled. You think the world cares about a boat and a few stories? I made this ocean powerful. Keanu answered, We just lit a light for the world to see. Lucien tried to run to the radio, but one of the agents calmly stepped in and placed a hand on his shoulder. Lucien Marceau, he said, you are under arrest for hurting people, for selling people, and for being part of a bad group that forced people to work. Lucien didn't fight. He didn't yell. He just stood there, quiet. His fancy suit looked too heavy now. Outside, the guests were being calmly moved by the flying robots and the peacekeepers. Some of the guests cried. Some begged. Some tried to run. But there was nowhere to go. The sea wasn't safe for them anymore. On the top deck, the glowing screen changed one last time. It now showed a sentence. Empire is not inheritance, it's responsibility. Keanu took a deep breath. Drop the anchor, he said softly. The captain nodded. The boat slowed down, turned into the wind, and finally stopped. It had never stopped before. But now it belonged to something bigger than any rich man. It belonged to the truth. The big fancy ballroom was quiet. The music was gone. The champagne glasses were gone. Instead, there were folding chairs, bright lights, and one camera sitting on a stand. The powerful guests were now sitting in a line like school kids. They had no more fancy masks or shiny clothes. Their eyes were wide with fear or totally blank. Lucien Marceau stood in the middle of the room. He wasn't the boss anymore. He was just a man being watched. His staff had cleaned him up, made his suit look nice again, as if that could bring back his power. But nothing could hide the truth now. No one respected him. They were just waiting to hear what he had done. Denzel Washington stood to the side, arms crossed, calm. Keanu leaned against a metal pole. He didn't say anything. He was just watching. The camera turned slowly, showing the room live. A woman walked up to the front. She looked about 60 years old. Her skin was brown and showed she had spent a lot of time in the sun. She wore a light scarf and had strong, kind eyes. My name is Dr. Aman Dower, she said into the microphone. 10 years ago, I was the head archaeologist at a very old place in Mali. We were keeping old books safe. These books told the stories of our people. She looked right at Lucien. One day, men came in helicopters. They said they were from a group trying to help save history. But they took everything. What they didn't take, they burned. She held up a photo. It was from one of those books. You sold this 2 nights ago, she said. You called it Lot 19B. I called it my grandfather's last work. No one clapped. No one gasped. There was only silence and the soft hum of the camera. It was the sound of truth. Then a man in his 30s came up. He was strong and had a scar on his face. My name's Jonas Mbe, he said. My brother worked in one of your mines in Congo. He said it was safe. He said they paid him. But one day the tunnel fell. My brother died. They closed it up and moved on. No grave. No goodbye. Lucien still didn't look up. Then another person came. Then another. One by one they told stories. Stories of stolen children. Of clinics emptied for health deals. Of land taken away to make fancy parks that were really hunting grounds for the rich. Keanu stayed quiet, but when a little girl came up, he leaned forward just a little. She was about 13 years old. Her hands were shaking. "I was on one of the boats," she said. "They told us we were going to school. But instead, we cleaned and served drinks. We had to smile. And they never let us off the boat." She looked down at her hands. She was holding a plastic bracelet. "They made us disappear." Finally, Lucien looked up. He looked straight at her. She didn't cry. She didn't blink. She just stood there. At that moment, something inside him broke. A small twitch. A breath. A shake. His fancy body could no longer carry the truth. "You built this empire with silence, Lucien," Keanu said. "Tonight, you sank under the sound of truth." The sun rose slowly over the sea, shining a soft gold light. The big boat was quiet now. It didn't sparkle with party lights anymore. Its lights glowed for something else, something better. No one popped champagne bottles now. Instead, there were soft footsteps and quiet talks in many languages. The boat was changing. On the top deck, Keanu stood at the edge, hands behind his back. The wind gently pulled at his shirt. Below, workers moved boxes. Not art, not secrets, but real help. Medical tools. Solar panels. Learning kits for schools. Denzel stood beside him, drinking coffee from a metal cup. "She's beautiful in the daylight," Denzel said. Keanu nodded. "She just needed a reason to sail." Down below, reporters came on board, one by one. They didn't wear tuxedos. They had notepads, cameras, and press badges. No one told them to hide anything. They were there to tell the truth. Lucien Marceau was gone. Early in the morning, he had been taken by police on a small boat. His hands were in handcuffs. He didn't say anything. But it didn't matter. The world had already heard everything. The auction stage had been replaced by a new sign. It was a simple black stand with a new plaque on top. The plaque said the ship wasn't for sale anymore, but it was now for remembering the people who had been silenced. The ship would sail in honor of them. It said, "Loa rededicated, April 21st. Denzel looked at Keanu and said, "You could have sunk this ship and made a big statement." Keanu shook his head and said, "I didn't want to destroy it. I wanted to change it, to turn the machine against its creator." Denzel smiled and said, "Are you sure you're not a writer?" Then, a voice came over the ship's intercom. "All stations are working. New plan cleared for open water. The next stop is Tripoli. Human rights team boarding in 4 hours." Keanu picked up a tablet. The ship's new ownership was now public. One screen showed live viewers from over 92 countries. The second screen showed donations coming in from people, activists, universities, and regular people, not big companies or governments. Denzel read one of the messages aloud from the screen. It said, "This isn't just a ship. It's proof that justice doesn't need a flag to sail." There was a pause, and then Keanu said quietly, "Power doesn't always have to look like power. Sometimes it just has to hold the light." As the sun rose higher, shining gold on the water, the ship started to turn slowly. It wasn't going toward money or greed anymore. It was going with something much stronger. Conviction, which means a strong belief in doing the right thing. The sea was calm, and the ship, called Lampire, sailed gracefully. It no longer searched for horizons to make money. Instead, it was carrying important stories that needed to be heard. Lucien Marceau, who had once been important, was now gone. He was taken away under heavy guard to The Hague, where he would be put on trial. His arrest was shown on TV for 24 hours. People had once seen him as a big supporter of art and culture, but now he was just a prisoner. There were no more celebrations or speeches about him. His name was only signed on legal papers for his extradition. But even though he was gone, people still remembered him, and his pride still lingered in the air. Keanu stood alone on the ship's observation deck, looking at the wake behind the ship. The water was smooth, and the ship left a perfect line behind it. It was like a scar healing in real time. Keanu didn't smile. He didn't need to. Denzel walked up to him quietly. They didn't say anything at first. Just stood together, comfortable in the silence. Below them, a group of children were playing with tablets that had been donated from the ship's new cargo. A girl in a red headscarf was showing a younger boy how to spin a 3D model of the ship. Another boy was pointing at a photo of Lucien from the auction night, where he stood proudly among a group of masked people. The boy pointed at Keanu's face in the photo and asked, "Was that you?" Keanu nodded. The boy asked, "Why didn't you stop it sooner?" Denzel knelt beside him and said, "We needed the world to see what was happening first." Up on deck, a bell rang softly. The crew gathered near the railing where a plaque was being uncovered. A young woman, one of the survivors, pulled off the cloth. The plaque read, "Let no empire rise without memory. Let no power reign without eyes upon it. In memory of the unheard." There were no speeches or ceremonies. Just the wind, the breath of the people, and stillness. Then, Keanu spoke for the first time that day. "Turn off the broadcast," he said quietly. A crew member blinked and asked, "Sir, the world has already seen enough." Keanu answered, "Let this moment belong to silence." The camera light blinked once, then went dark. For the first time in years, the sea belonged to itself again. The ship, L'Empire, continued to sail forward. The wake it left behind was imperfect, jagged, but also beautiful. It wasn't erased. It was rewritten. True power isn't about control. It's about protecting those who don't have a voice. L'Empire had once been a symbol of greed, but now, when it was reclaimed with truth and compassion, it became a ship for justice. Never underestimate silence. Because sometimes, silence is the loudest form of resistance. If you liked this story, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling adventures, mysteries, and unforgettable moments. Your support keeps these stories alive and the creativity flowing. Thanks for watching. I can't wait to see you in the next video.